everybody. I'm calling to order the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education meeting on October 25th, 2023 at 9:12 a.m. I'm Susan Yankee, and I'm the chair as well as a parent member. So I'm doing my acronym speech I always do. During the meeting, we're going to use a lot of acronyms. Two that we often use are SAC. You're going to hear that a lot. Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education. And CSDE, which is the Connecticut State Department of Education. If members use an acronym, please just take a second to explain what it means. The council's purpose and function, I'm just going to read this. Under the authority of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Connecticut State Department of Education maintains an advisory council for the purpose of providing policy guidance with respect to special education and related services for children and youth with disabilities in the state. You can find more information on the Connecticut State Department of Education website, along with past meeting videos and our annual reports. So we're going to do introductions and roles. We're going to first go around the room. Just introduce yourself and what your role on the council is. And if you are, if you're from possibly like you're from CREC or something, and you also have a child with special education, go ahead and mention that as well. And then we're going to go to the members who are online. Members online, just want to make sure everybody has their name in their screen box. Okay, great. So I would start. Sean, would you start? Introduce yourself and your role. You're late, young man. That you have to go first.
Hi, I'm Sean Cronin, and I work with Brian at the State Department of Education.
Hi, I'm Jen Lucier. I'm a parent stakeholder and vice chair.
Okay, Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine Sum. I represent Aging and Disability Services, Bureau of Education Services for the Blind, and I'm the chair of the membership committee and on the executive committee.
Wonderful, Brian, and then we'll work around.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Brian Klipwitz, Special Education Division Director at the State Department of Education. And we're testing out sound here. So folks online, let us know if you could hear the back row, okay? We have our speaker right at the center table. So we'll test it out with the first introduction with Kim.
Williamson, and I represent speech language pathologist.
How's that audio coming through? Hard to hear?
No, I heard Kim.
Okay.
Lisa couldn't.
I'll try to
I'm a doctor, representative of Disability Rights Connecticut, the protection advocacy system here in Connecticut. I'm also a parent of a child with disability. Josh Martin, I'm schools, and I am the Concase representative.
I'm Dawn Dickow. I am representing Southington Public Schools. I was recently selected to be the Paraeducator of the Year a couple weeks ago, and I have a son. I have a son who who also has special education needs.
Hi, this is Dimpy Malvania. I'm a parent stakeholder. I also recently joined CREC in finance and operations team.
And I'm Representative Robin Comey, and I'm the legislative person on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. And Missy, can we start with you? And then would you call out based on what you see?
I am Missy Wrigley, and I am a parent representative here with a young man in 7th grade with an IEP, and I am also a consultant at CERC, the State Education Resource Center. Nachi, you're right next to me. I'm going to call on you.
Thank you, Missy. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nachi Bhatt. I represent Department of Children and Families, specifically the children in care, students with disabilities. Thank you.
Jolie?
Jolie Medina, assistant to the SAC. Good morning, everyone.
How about Tommy? You're right under Jolie there.
Student member of CERC, Tommy Miller.
Welcome, Tommy. Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa Nee, and I am a parent advocate with a son with autism and IDD.
Excellent. Cassandra?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassandra Riley. I'm the charter school rep and a parent of 2 children with IEPs.
Welcome. Tammy? We can't hear you, Tammy.
Okay.
How's that?
There we go.
Okay, thank you. Tammy Raccio, I'm a parent representative with a child with an IEP.
Nice to see you. Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Hampton Smith with the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and I'm the parent of a 33-year-old with autism and intellectual disability.
Denise.
Good morning, I'm Denise Drummond. I'm a legislative policy analyst with the Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity and Opportunity. And I'm also a parent of a child who is autistic.
Good morning, Jeff.
Yes, hi, Jeffrey Spar. I'm the Deputy Corporation Counsel for Norwalk, but more importantly, I'm the father of a young man with autism and ADHD, and I'm the chairman of the Legislative Committee.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Michael.
Yes, hey, good morning, everyone. Michael Scanlon, Youth Coordinator at CPAC, Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and I'm here as a person with a disability and representing students and youth.
Thank you, Michael. Good to see you.
Good to see
Tyler.
Good morning. My name is Tyler Young. I'm a special education teacher representing the special education teacher stakeholders, and I am a special education teacher at Bristol Public School.
Welcome. My screen, everybody's bouncing all over the place. Brian.
Good morning, everybody. Brian Smith, State of Connecticut Department of Developmental Services. I am an Assistant Regional Director for the Individual, Families, and Self-Determination Division, and I represent all the stakeholders of DDS.
Thank you. Mia?
I think that she just has the
Just
her notes going for us.
Okay.
For her.
Very good. Very good. All right. I think that's everybody besides Matt, unless Matt wants to introduce himself.
He does not, I'm pretty sure.
Matt is our SDE tech guy.
Okay, wonderful.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're moving on to consent agenda. So the September 13th full SEC meeting minutes need to be approved. They were sent with the meeting invite, and I didn't know if anyone had any corrections to the minutes. Anyone? Brian, we lost the people. Uh-oh.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, well,
Hey,
They're not
no.
really lost.
I'm like, we here.
We're not seeing the slides at all, Brian.
We're here.
Does anyone have any corrections? Anyone? I looked over, I didn't see anything.
You can't lose me. You'll hear me wherever I'm at.
So are there any corrections to the minutes? Missy?
I am seeing no's appear.
Okay, great. So Representative Comey has a correction.
So
Okay.
if this is me here, Senator Comey, I'm representative. not
Yeah,
senator.
okay. Matt called that to my attention online. Sorry.
No, okay, she's got more responsibility, right?
Give
Okay,
it, leave it up to Jolie to give away the job titles around here.
Okay.
More money? Oh, and there's a second spot too, page 3.
Can you
Page
tell
3,
me?
Julie.
Okay, oh, thank you very much.
Page 3, section 2, yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
wonderful. All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes with corrections?
Thank you.
Anyone?
Missy?
Mr. Kosker made a motion. Who would like to second it?
Yeah.
Brian Smith would like to second.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Brian. And abstentions from anyone who didn't attend. Wait, Mr. Kosker has to abstain. Okay. Okay. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes with corrections, please raise your hand or your hand button on the screen.
Aye.
Everybody is approved in the room.
Thank
Okay,
you.
wonderful. The September 13th full SAC meeting minutes with corrections are now approved.
Thank you.
Old business. Executive Committee report, Special Education Task Force update. So our last meeting was canceled, so there's no substantive update. The next meeting is November 14th, 9:30 a.m. at CAPS, Connecticut Association of Public Schools in Cheshire. Jennifer Lucier, do I say your last name right? Because I've been saying names wrong. Lucier. Sorry, Lucier, I'm doing the French pronunciation. Lucier and myself are on a subcommittee that are tasked with recommendations for restraint and seclusion. And so we are going to be guided with that by input from you, the SAC members, and from our priorities and recommendations and our work group on restraint and seclusion. So the next part I'm updating is the timelines for the annual report. So the executive committee is responsible for completing the annual report based on our SAC meetings and the recommendations from the SAC members. The report is due January 1st and then is shared with legislators and CSDE. And there was an attachment to your meeting invite email with our proposed timeline if you want to see our deadlines and kind of know when we're getting stressed out right around the holidays. Okay, legislative breakfast. As of this moment, it will be at the Legislative Office Building on January 17th from 9 to 10 a.m. with our full SAC meeting is going to be immediately following. As we get closer to the date, we're going to ask our SAC members to reach out to their legislators and invite them. Possibly we'll come up with a couple of lines for you to send in an email to your legislator and a link to how to find your legislator. And we are going to, the main purpose of this meeting with the legislators is to introduce the SAC along with our priorities and recommendations. And hopefully we can also fill our 4 remaining spots for legislators on the council, or even 1 extra spot would be wonderful. Jolie is working with Representative Comey on securing the executive dining room and a conference room at the LOB for January 17th. And we'll get you more details, but it's very easy to park at the LOB. It's very easy. And I hope everybody can come because it's a good experience and it's good to know where our legislators are making our laws. Okay. Yes.
When does the session open, do you know?
February, whatever that first Wednesday is.
Okay, so a couple weeks before session opens, but most people should be in the building, getting close to being in the building.
Yeah, I think people will be after the first of the year.
A couple weeks after the first of the year, so we got a good
It
shot.
moves very fast, beginning in February, so we
Yeah.
only have like a couple of weeks, you know, and then things just.
Yeah, that's proven to be a good meeting in the past, like
Okay.
that meeting at the LOB and gotten some, it's obviously easier to get representatives there when it's in their building, so.
Right. And we can get a meeting room when they're not in session. When they're in
Yeah.
session, it's about impossible. So, and do you think we should be reaching out, Representative Comey, to legislators in December, like by December 1st, or do you have our invites so they can get on their calendars?
Yeah, I would, yeah, I mean, the beginning, and maybe after Thanksgiving, and then give them a heads up, hold the date. We should invite all of your legislators,
Right.
like put out a general, like, Jolie
Yep.
email and
Yep.
Tell them what the purpose of it is, or just briefly, and then remind them several times.
Okay.
And you can always reach out to their aides too.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add to that, because again, having interacted with my legislators and a number of them over the years, it's the earlier you start to reach out, the better, even if it's now to say like, hey, here, because it's going to take you a month just to like go back and forth. Again, the general one's a general one, but just to go back if you haven't connected with your legislator before, to say, here's who I am, this is who we are, this is the group. We're having this meeting in early January because it's going to take you a little while to get an email back from the aide and find out who the aide even is. And then you realize, oh, actually the aide's the person who's going to email me back most of the time, and the legislature's too busy. So realizing that stuff ahead of time rather than like January 3rd, you know what I mean? Like is a good idea. And then you can get into, okay, by the way, here's a date, a little snippet about us. But they're happy to come if they're in the building and they're around, certainly. Or if it's a topic, like Robin, that it's important to them, then it'll show up.
Especially if they're on the education committee or the children's committee. Those 2 key committees, I mean, there's a lot of people on both of those committees, so they should be sort of interested in that lane.
Okay,
Hi, Missy here. Tammy was asking a question if there's a flyer or an invitation that we can send to our reps.
There is not yet. We're waiting for the room to be secured
Yeah.
positively. It is? It is? Jolie, it is?
I did not hear back yet, Representative Comey on it being secured.
It is. It is.
Brian hasn't done the email yet, see?
Yeah, then that if Representative Comey is saying it is, then we are good to go, and I am psyched.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could put that as an action item for us to
I'll get the room number.
develop a
Let me-
flyer.
So I want to first, and then, okay, so I'm going to end my executive committee report, and I made a mistake, and we actually have a member of the public. Sorry, I forgot public comment. So could we put our member of the public who would like to make comment? I'm so terribly sorry.
Miss Lissany.
Yes,
I'd love to see Lisa.
Shall I take it away?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Lisa Nee. I'm a parent of a child with autism and IDD. I and a group of colleagues from the Partners in Policy graduate group course have chosen as our project the condition of transition for students with disabilities in Connecticut. And we have spent over 100 hours speaking with experts, researching in and out of state and attending conferences. And consistently, we have found parents confused and overwhelmed, and students who have been through all the mandatory checklists are still falling off the cliff at age 22. And for students who qualify for DDS, it's even more difficult. Although we have not found the consistent CT transition of best practices that lead to success, we did identify the most common factor in all successful transitions. And that key to success is a passionate parent on a mission. I know from personal experience that parents often give up paid employment to navigate the complex transition maze. I also know that a parent has to develop a very tough exterior because we are not popular with school administrators. I've held VP positions in the corporate world and own my own business. So I know from experience that if CT transition were a business, it would be out of business. Transition is the infrastructure for a student's successful future, and CT transition program is a bridge that is collapsing and in dire need of repair. I look forward to working with you to create a transition program process that is robust, well-defined, measurable, and successful for all students with disabilities. Thank you all for everybody who is here for all you do to improve the lives of students with disability. I am very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We will definitely take your comments to heart, and we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Thank you so much. All right.
Susan, question about something you already glanced by.
What did I glance by?
Well, glance.
No, help me. Go ahead.
The task force, I just wanted to know a little bit more about the task force. You said seclusion restraint that you and Jen are on.
Oh, okay.
Is that a CSDE task force? Is that a?
No, this is the, I'm sorry, this is the
Task force.
special education task force that we had requested legislatively for them to add a member from our group to be on
Gotcha.
it.
Okay.
And in this last
This is legislatively done.
Right.
Special education
Exactly.
task force for seclusion restraint.
One of the topics that the special ed task force was charged with
Yeah.
was to look at and comment,
Exclusion.
make recommendations around restraint exclusion.
Okay.
It was added the last legislative session.
There was a lot added.
The other topic that was added was gifted and talented,
Yes.
and maybe there were also just recent new appointees to the
Right.
state advisory council,
I got
6 new appointees. So the Susan and Jen were representatives first time around. And then, like you mentioned, the last meeting was canceled.
Right.
So there isn't really an update as far as the last meeting, but one additional piece of the new legislation is that the final report is in February 2024
Yeah.
instead of this year. But this year in February, there's a executive summary or an initial report.
You mean the final?
I actually thought they were doing it in November.
From the task
From the
force,
task
the recommendations from the special education task force. So it hasn't been in operation very long, but there will be a short, kind of where are the recommendations or priorities at this point in time, which the subcommittees, as you mentioned, are
Right.
all working on the recommendations now between now and February.
Right. And so as a member of the special education task force, we will able to be bringing our voice of restraint and seclusion to that. Jen?
And I will also add, our group is actually the eligibility subgroup.
Oh, that's right, yes.
They've kind of tapped on restraint and seclusion because it was added. So it's going to be part of our work group, even though we're the eligibility. And one of the issues,
Eligibility for special education.
eligibility
For
special
identification,
education,
so changing identification for
yeah.
kindergarten.
one of the things that they are talking about in our group is about extending the age eligibility for developmental delay. Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to add that the executive committee and the legislative committee had been looking at all the various legislation, and one of the hot topics was the restraint and seclusion. And there was a various going back and forth of whether to outlaw it or whether to get rid of it or whether to keep it. And we had suggested up through from the legislative committee to the executive committee to have a study made of it, because there was two sides of the coin. And we submitted written testimony to the various legislators on that. And so they picked that up, and then also we had asked to be included in the task force, and that was done. So that was a good positive result.
Thank you. Is there anyone else have any more comments or discussion for the executive committee report? Because we can talk about restraint and seclusion in our priorities at the later section. We good?
I'll just say quick, again, that's an area that's important to us at Disability Rights Connecticut. So want to be plugged in on it, the work that the group is
That's
doing.
why I called you and
Yeah,
said,
I know.
don't you want to be
I know. I just want to be on the work group. I just want to be plugged in the conversation. But yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, it is just not.
No, you're on the work
So I don't know who the chair of the whole thing is, but the report coming out 2024. So February 2024 is so soon. That's like.
Yeah, there are two co-chairs. One is Andy Feinstein, who's a parent attorney. The other is Fran Rabinowitz, who represents superintendents.
And I'm assuming that you can be a public comment at
Yes, I mean,
at the special education task force, but it's hard to find out the meeting information.
Yes, I'm not sure. So they want as much input from the public as possible. So they talked about holding public sessions. I'm not sure. The meetings are available streaming, I think.
Right, streamed, okay.
So, but the co-chairs were both talking about before the recommendations, they'll hold some type of a public input.
Like a public hearing where people can come in and speak about it. And I think there was just recently a suggestion of moving that later after we have our recommendations, so people can actually comment on
Yeah,
the
just
rest.
get plugged in on that.
Definitely.
As you guys have a seat.
Definitely. And if I find links to the meetings, I will request those, and I can share those with the SAC. Julie can help me out with that.
Just in case, worst case scenario, if you don't get the meeting link, can the report, once published, be available for SAC members?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. And I'll update you each one of our meetings whenever we have something that we've moved or an actual recommendation. Right now, it's gathering data is kind of what and what we need to focus on, and is what we're doing right now. So once there's something solid, I will definitely, that's the wonderfulness of getting us on this special education task force. Yeah. And then I really want to make sure the voice of the SAC is heard, because we have so many different experiences, right?
Thank you, Susan and Jeff,
Yeah.
for being on that and stuff. That's great.
Yeah, and Brian is also. Okay, all right. So let me recalibrate my brain. Okay. Thank you, everybody. That's why this group is so wonderful. It's because everybody works together. It's pretty amazing. Next, we have our membership committee reports.
Okay, well, I'm going to be brief, but I'd just like to report again, and Dawn introduced herself, but we have a candidate for our new paraeducator position here, Dawn DeCow. And hopefully the membership committee will have the opportunity to convene soon to meet and review her application. So Dawn, thank you so much for coming today to learn more about the SAC. And I was checking my inbox very quickly this morning, and the good news is it looks like we have an interested student to fill that remaining student vacancy. So stay tuned for more information on that. And then, as Susan said earlier, we still have 4 legislative vacancies, but hopefully when we have our legislative breakfast in January, we will gain at least 1 more member after that. So any questions for membership?
No, and according to our bylaws, as chair, I can invite Dawn to participate in our priorities and recommendations. All we really would love to have the paraeducator voice at that. So I'd like to invite you to stay and participate in that. Next, legislative committee report. Oh yeah, by the way, thank you. I know how hard you work. Oh, well, Dawn, is there anything you'd like to say? You will get this chance once you're officially a member too. You will be put on the spot.
Well, I'm just just taking it all in. I'm only part of one small cog in the wheel that is special education, and for me to be kind of behind the scenes, this is very informative. And I've always wanted to know more about how things are implemented, improved, and things like that. So I'm very excited to be here to get all that input.
Thank you. And you'll find that this is a very experienced, very positive. It's a pretty amazing group, the SAC. And thank you. So you're gonna be a wonderful addition as soon as we go through our formal process. Okay, wonderful. Mr. Jeffrey Spar, would you please give us the legislative committee report? If you have one, you might not.
All right, before he does that, could we have the presentation presented again? Because we're not seeing the presentation.
Oh,
See your lovely face.
we want to see everybody's face. I want to see Jeff's beautiful face or his background. He
Yeah, I
always
was
has
gonna
a
say-
vacation background.
I'm like, she wants to see Jeff's background.
Okay, so as the tide approaches from my background here, being down in Norwalk, we had some old stalwarts, despite their better judgment, decided to stay on the legislative committee, and we've also had some new people come in. My first motion would be I'd want to tap into Jolie's energy level. That would be my first motion to do.
I got you.
But I had reached out to everybody on the legislative committee, gave them a brief outline about what we do and what some of the things that we've done in the past. And we're waiting for the legislative session to start next year, which would be in this particular year, I believe would be February, as I indicated in a thing, in a greeting letter to everybody. So we're set and ready to go, and look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you. Wonderful. We are ahead of time. We are moving on to the roundtable. So I can't see your screen hand if you have any updates from your stakeholders. So I would love if you, Missy, if you could be in charge of that for me, if someone does. So please raise your screen hand or your actual hand in here if you have any updates from your stakeholders, as well as positive aspects of student programming. This includes unmet needs. You can pass as well. You do not have to talk. And remember, events are not announced here, but are emailed to Jennifer, and she will then send them out to the full SAC. So who would like to start? Does anybody have anything to share? So the ethics practice has met, I think, 4 times now this year. So the focus has been on different parts of the IEP, then recently the speech and language guidelines, but on revision of that. Thank you. Anybody? I think you have. Anna just joined us. Yes.
Okay, so at BESB, we recently completed our series of 6 fall in-service trainings for education team members. So these are educators and other team members who work with preschool age children all the way through high school, and working with children who have different types of visual impairments. So we trained, I don't have the final numbers yet, but it was over 200 individuals. So we're really happy with that. And then meanwhile, the children's services staff are also participating in their own trainings. We have a relatively new staff. We've hired, oh gosh, I can't even remember how many people in the last 3 years, a lot. So it's really great. Everyone has such good energy. So through a collaboration with UMass Boston, the staff recently participated in a tactile training workshop. So how do you teach tactile discrimination skills to children? And then a sort of a follow-up to that, a particular Braille curriculum called I Am Able. So they just concluded that last night. And tomorrow we're beginning an in-house training on assessment strategies when working with children who have cortical visual impairment. We have many more trainings and opportunities planned for staff, students, parents, and other education team members throughout the year. And we also have a number of student-specific events that will commence shortly. So that's what we have going on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Susan, Cassandra has something to say.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm still kind of glowing off a conversation I had yesterday with my team around matching the best possible supports with kids, regardless of like disability status. So we have a very skilled reading specialist, and we were able to get everyone to kind of see, like, let's put the skilled reading teacher with the kid who needs it versus the guidance we had got from our host district in the past, which was like, no, once they have special education hours, they can't see that person. So it's kind of an upside of the hands-off approach of our host district this year, is we're doing really great things by kids in terms of getting them the most efficient supports while also training up our special education teachers. So they'll be able to eventually provide those supports. So that's kind of my glow. My grow continues to be the funding landscape. I know there was just an article that was on the front page of a couple papers how Waterbury owes like $780,000 for reimbursement for special education services, which just puts a lot of pressure on schools because we want to continue to provide these great services, but when we're not reimbursed by the host district, it's deeply challenging. The other piece, which was my biggest challenge last time, continues to be a huge challenge, is the provision of related services within the context of a very large speech and language pathologist shortage. And then the conversation around compensatory education. So what that should look like for kids, particularly very young children, who did not receive speech services last year. Now they're a year older, and the guidance that we're getting around what that comp ed should look like is not really in the scope of best practice in working for kids. So in the day-to-day, those are kind of the two big things that I'm seeing, not just at my own school, but in a variety of our districts that host charter schools. So help, someone help. Thank you.
Tyler also has a hand up.
Hi, everyone. I can give a quick update regarding the special education teacher stakeholders realm of what's going on. So I think one of the great things that special education teachers have seen is just a continued focus on CT SEDS. We've really worked hard on gaining more strengths on how to input the new IEP stuff into CT SEDS. I think we've had more training throughout the first couple months in many different districts to continue to strengthen our IEPs for our special education students within Connecticut. We continue to see, unfortunately, numbers of special education teachers leaving the profession. Both in my current district and across the districts in Connecticut, as I've spoke to other special education teachers and head directors of special education. Special education teachers are leaving at an alarming rate, even at the beginning of the school year. And there's not many recruits coming up from colleges, both within our colleges in state and out of state. So that's the struggle that current special education teachers are seeing is case numbers are going up and more special education teachers are being more special education students are being identified while special education teachers are dwindling, which means case numbers and case hours are struggling to be met. So that's the tough part that we're seeing right now on the front lines is we're really struggling. So that's kind of the update for that.
Thank you, Tyler. And that will be one of our priorities that we will be, am I correct? Retention, and that's one of our priorities, recommendations. Is there anybody else?
Jane?
Oh, Jane, I'm so sorry.
No problem. I usually just report on some trends that CPAC has seen. And so on the positive side, we're having a lot of requests from districts for in-person training for families. That's a big change since the pandemic. So we're happy to see that flowing back into more connection and more efforts on the part of district to support families. On the other side of things, through the parents that are calling us, there's a lot of things going on, but I think the thing that rises to the surface to us most of all are the various reasons students are out of school. So I understand and appreciate the fact that there is a shortage, which means students in school are really struggling with getting their services, but students who are out of school aren't getting any services. And these are kids not receiving homebound or other opportunities. For the first time that I can recall, registration issues came up a lot this fall. Families who moved, registered, and were told to just wait before they could send their child, and they didn't know what they were waiting for. That was kind of a new thing. Transportation is usually a big issue in the fall. That didn't change. It was still a big issue. Whether kids weren't getting any, whether the transportation would not come to their home, all different issues like that. But the primary issue, I would say, is behavioral escalations. Families are being asked to keep their children home, or there's just no placement for them. And part of the lack of placement is lack of staff. But even in the APSEFs, there's not a lot of room for kids. So those kids with behavioral needs are really continuing to be home. And we have issues, we have programs like LEAP that are working actively with families to get their kids into school, but we have families who have kids home that they don't want them home and they want them in school, and they're having trouble getting the help to get their kids back. So I would say those are the biggest issues that rise to the surface for us. There's plenty of issues about lack of implementation of IEPs, questions about LRE and other issues, but the kids that are home is really, it seems to be a very big number. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So,
yeah.
Within the Council of Administrators of Special Education, one of the areas kind of piggybacking on what Tyler and even Jane was saying, a big area that we're seeing a huge need is behavioral mental health services and needs. I think looking down the road, I want to say, and I don't have the exact number, somewhere between upper 30s, low 40s, in the amount of school psychologists that would be graduating at the end of this current school year. I'm quite sure that we have far more needs than that small number, and that's just assuming that all those stay in the state. I think there's a large proportion of that number that are UConns, graduate from UConn, and they're pretty typically go back out of state. So that's an area that we're continuing to discuss and trying to find additional.
Okay. Thank you. Is there?
Yes.
Yes.
And everybody else, Anna Wittig, I am representing APSEPS, which is approved private schools. We have exciting things and we have the same issues. So the staffing is a big problem, not just teachers, but paraprofessionals. The exciting part is that we kind of said, well, this is our life right now. Let's adjust and modify and kind of what can we do? So our plans are for a very robust professional development for this whole year where we're going to try to excite people about special education. We're actually calling the whole PD plan for the whole year is Joy in Special Education. We're going to focus on technology. We're going to focus on things that are out there that can make our lives easier. There is a lot of needs. The kids do have quite significant needs coming to us. Obviously, they come to us when the public school is not an appropriate placement. We are also trying to organize kind of building that pool of educators, because somebody gave at one of the conferences, somebody gave that analogy of playing Hungry Hungry Hippo games. We have so many marbles and we're all trying to grab those marbles, educators, giving more money, giving more benefits, this and that. But how do we increase that pool of marbles so that we have enough for all of us? And we are noticing, and actually I got to compliment State Department of Education because they are recognizing the profession, not just teaching profession, but paraprofessional profession in the state. And I think we need to focus on some more of that. What are the benefits besides money? And we give the people decide, I want to go do this. Okay, I'll get hit, I'll get kicked, I'll get spit at, but I still want to go and do this because I love it. So
Thank you. And that is definitely one of our priorities this year. All right, I see a hand. I just turned around. Is that
Michael?
Jovi, Missy? Oh, Michael, sorry.
It is Jovi, but I think Michael was there first, I think.
Sure, yes, hi everyone, Michael Scanlon. So my updates, I'll try to be brief, a little all over the place, but just wanted to say hi to Lisa. I'm also a partners graduate, so I'd love to chat with you later on about some things. So I'll pop my email in the chat for you. I think in terms of, students, youth, young adults, I know there's a lot of reports out right now from the Dalio Foundation and different task forces on disconnected youth. That's very near and dear. Like I've lived that life, like according to reports, like a point in various points in my life, I, was one of those statistics, one of those young people. So it's, definitely hitting me really like right in the heart, right now. And, so I think, I obviously can't speak for all young people, but I think there's certainly a sense of, young people just in this space of, as always, figuring things out. And a term I coined, I use is failing forward. That's like my theme. If I ever write a book about my life, it's going to be called Failing Forward, because those learning moments from like those messy moments when things didn't, work out, and how do we respond to that? So I think, in terms of what I'm seeing, what we're doing, it really is just having those brave, honest conversations. So I've just really been trying to hit different stakeholders. I've spoken to different parent groups. And so I'm just inviting anyone here. Like, I know I'm only part-time at CPAC, but we're a resource. I'll do whatever I can. So I just really think, there's just this place of young people, whether it's just every young person's different, and I think that's the key is so I think I'm not like making it really easy for you all to like, oh, there's like a million things, right? But I think that's kind of the strength, is that we all can do something. And so I think it's just this, for me, it's just the reminder of there is hope. I know it's really hard. I just try to tell our young people, tell our parents, like, you're making a difference, and that I'll kind of pause there.
Thank you, Michael.
Jovi?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joviana Morales, and I am here as a parent. I just wanted to share, and I know I may seem like a broken record, but because I am bilingual, most of the families that I talk to and support are bilingual families, or families that are monolingual or that don't dominate the English language. So we're still having issues with language access, having IEPs translated. So that is an ongoing issue. However, it is a good opportunity when I speak to the parents to support them and let them know what their rights are and how to be a meaningful participant in their child's education. And it also lends an opportunity to talk to districts about how can they make parents meaningful participants. So just wanted to bring that up.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jovi.
Is there
Anyone
anybody else?
Oh, Representative Comey?
I think this is the appropriate place to say, as a member of the Children's Committee, which has, relationships with DCF, received a email, to the whole committee about, improving some, of the experiences this person had as they, guardianship of the child, a young child. So some of it was birth to three, one's birth to three, once the services were reduced and they transitioned to the Board of Education, he would characterize that as insufficient services for the type of disabilities and the kind of support that the child needed. Goes into sort of details about the speech therapy and things like that. But I think, what she was letting us know, and it was not to criticize, her experience at all, but that, how to make recommendations, how to improve it. And her, first recommendation that would involve this group, I should say, is addressing the urgent need for enhanced early intervention. Is there an autism advisory council?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, okay. So this is talks about examining, giving the authority of them to examine the gaps of service provision and workforce availability. That many of us were just, was just touched upon, goes into some detail on that. And then the second part, which I think is important for us to hear, is a systematic approach to raising awareness of available services, comprehensive toolkits. This proposal recommends the mandatory provision of a comprehensive toolkit by healthcare providers and educators encompassing pediatricians, ERs, DR, emergency departments, school districts, and a compilation of accessible services for individuals diagnosed with ASD, aimed at demystifying the process of securing essential support. So that was just something that came to my plate, and I thought I would share out here. And if I don't know if Nachi has seen this email or would be interested in me sending it.
Nachi? Yes, Nachi, did you hear Representative Comey? He can unmute.
No, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, there's a lot.
Did you get an email that was sent to the Children's Committee about a parent talking about toolkits and more system awareness for students with autism, especially going from birth to 3?
It was through she's a caregiver. She was given a guardianship of an 18-month-old grandchild or something like that. Maybe they can't hear me.
Okay, I'm not.
I guess my point is that, they didn't feel they had, among other things, that we could do a better job putting together a toolkit of specifically targeting younger parents and parents in general or caregivers of children with ASD, with autism spectrum disorder. And that, yeah. And if that's something you're interested in seeing the email, if you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen the email. Was it directed to me?
No, it was it was sent to the entire Children's Committee.
Okay.
Would you like Representative Comey to share it with you?
Sure.
Nachi? Sure. Wonderful. All right. Mr. Kosker, cannot forget you.
I know.
Thank you. So again, Tom Kosker, Disability Rights Connecticut. A lot of good stuff was shared today, and I guess I'll start with just my stuff from us, Disability Rights Connecticut. We entered our new fiscal year recently, so we have kind of a new, but not totally new, but updated set of focus areas that we're working on. I'll just highlight those really quick. One is around exclusionary discipline, again, related to seclusion restraint, but very separate from that in many ways. Seclusion restraint is also an area that we are working on. We have some initiatives on that, which is hence my interest in talking to you guys about that work group and stuff. But on exclusionary discipline, again, talking about suspension, expulsions, etc. That's an area that we're looking at this year. Also transition, it seems to perpetually be an issue for us and for so many around the state, because it's, when we talk about transition, in this case, transition out of, secondary ed and post-secondary, in our link to vocational work as well. So that continues to be an area of focus for us. Also, which we don't get a lot of love on, but is an area that is an issue out there, is like the accommodations in post-secondary ed. So it's not, we haven't done a ton of work on there, but we continue to have it as a focus area because it's not a spot that a lot of folks are looking at necessarily all the time. So kind of accommodations, once you get this college, school, whatever, post-secondary education stuff. We also, and I mentioned this in the past, we have an education clinic that we're running right now, which is a good opportunity because the more we at Disability Rights have done systemic work, a lot of our work is systemic in nature and larger project-based work, but we still do individual work as well. And one of the ways we're doing that is this education clinic. And I'll share the flyer to the group that can share it around, which I've shared in the past, but it's a 1-hour session to meet with an advocate or an attorney. And parents send their child's IEPs and 504 plans, et cetera. And then we can kind of just talk through some of the issues they might be having. So that's a good opportunity for folks. Speaking about guardianship, you made me think of it, Robin, but this is more in the later side, in the transition age, turning 18, and guardianship and conservatorship. And focus area of ours this year is supported decision-making, which we got some legislation kind of snuck in there in one of the giant bills around supported decision-making, and a requirement that'll come into play next year, which Disability Rights Connecticut will be working with Brian and the State Department on some of that, hopefully this year, requiring school districts to inform parents and families and students of all the options, not just focused on conservatorship or guardianship, but all the decision-making options. So that's an area as well that we're working on. I think that highlights most of the stuff. We continue to do monitoring. We're doing monitoring of schools kind of regularly ongoing. We do investigations as things come up as well. And I'll just close with saying, first of all, thanks for everyone for being on this, SAC. I've been on this for a while and appreciate everyone's voice, but it's so great to have Michael and Mia and Tommy and the students on here. I think I got the students, right? Did I miss any of the students that are on now? Yeah. I think that's the 3 of them. So thank you guys for your voice. We really appreciate it because it's so powerful. You made the comment, we can all do something. I get choked up just thinking about it, but that's so critical for us to hear, Michael, that we can all do something, and we forget that sometimes. And we don't forget it, but we just lose sight of it, I think. I don't think any of us really forget it, but just we're doing a lot of work to prepare students for life after 22 or 18 or whenever they leave the school. And it's not awesome after they're 18 or 22 always. And it's a struggle. And we need to keep our eye on that, and we can all do something. So, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kosker. Okay.
Thank you.
I would love to just mention a couple of things. It was brought up to me at ASEPTO that parents are getting their information on what to do with special education from 211. And I was wondering if 211 is directing now to our call center that we have now, the special education call center. Does 211 have that information? Because they're calling 211 to say, help me.
Yeah, we don't, or we haven't received referrals from 211.
Okay.
I don't know if they know about our call.
Right, so maybe
reached out directly to the 211.
Okay, because that would probably be really valuable to make that
Yeah.
connection with 211.
They're looking for resources to send people to.
Right,
211.
so
Yeah.
211, that would
We
be
did a
wonderful.
press release and we did some general outreach and we're trying, like, word of mouth is, but we can definitely make a point of contacting them.
Because they're so well advertised.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Also, another quick one, and I've brought it up before. So another school board has okayed the phone lockup pouches for the kids for all day. In an emergency, they say the students can cut them open. And they're making exceptions if you have a medical problem. But I think maybe as a SAC, we should think about our students that use that as a communication tool, an education tool, and a social tool. So if you don't hear, a lot of times it's how you talk to your friends. You also have all the apps, like Mia right now is using that Otter app. So I think we should really catch this before it takes off at all the school districts, because they're not making exceptions for students with special education who need this as part of their 504 or their IEP. And they're getting the funding for this from the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act grant that Connecticut was awarded. And I'm not sure if they should be, because part of that grant is to create a safe, inclusive, and supporting learning environments. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because, I always say it wrong, double-edged sword, because you're trying to help students not be on their phone all day and be, all that social media, but at the same time, they need that phone to create a safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environment. So I just wanted to bring that point up, and I hope that we can talk about it in regards to students in special education. Anybody else?
Nachi?
Would you?
Thank you. I just want to add two things here. One, as my stakeholders came back to school this year, we find that there's many districts that have really embraced the LEAP program, Learner Engagement and Attendance Program of research-based home visiting. We find that to be beneficial. We applaud the districts that have embraced it and use it wholeheartedly. But also on the shortage of special ed personnel, we find that the general education environment is the first environment that misses supplemental supports and services and impacts LRE for our students because they end up in more restrictive programs because that's where the concentration of special educators, paraeducators are in schools. So those 2 points I just wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nachi.
Thank you, Nachi. Jane?
I just wanted to comment on Susan's point about the phone. Well, let me back up. She also asked a question about 211, and I have been on 211's resources online, and I have written to them to say that they're not really updated, and they said it's a public access site that we can update that resources ourselves. I personally did not have the time to update their resources, but I think it's something we can talk about. Make sure at least some of their resources are the ones that we feel that families should have or anybody who needs it should have. The other one was about the phones. And I agree with Susan in that it's a mixed bag. There are schools that actually do a bring your own device program because they want the kids to have access to online learning when they can. So they actually support the use of the phone. So I think that what we're really talking about is appropriate use of the phone, because there's a lot of parents who don't want their kids' phones locked up because they worry about school shooting and they want their child to be able to contact the outside world. And I know that's a very unpleasant topic, but it's a real fear for a lot of families. And there's also students in school with anxiety that just know that having that phone there will help them connect to somebody if they need that. So there's a lot of issues around phones. I think we could really use some good guidance on. So thank you for that, Susan.
Thank you, Jane.
I just want to say we've said LRE several times. So for our student members, least restrictive environment is what we mean when we say that.
And I think I was the person.
No, it was actually like 3 times, so it's okay.
Sorry, least restrictive environment. Is there anybody else? And I'm gonna do the owl turn.
Tammy?
Tammy.
Thank you. I just want to make another comment about the phones, and I see this from two different perspectives. First of all, as a special education parent, my son is in a school where phones are locked up, and he has no issue with being able to get to his phone to use any of his apps that he needs. They are allowing him, I can only speak for him, but they are allowing him when he needs to use one of the apps to have access to it. On another level, in my home district, we were a district last year that had an incident where a panic button was triggered in error. But once the panic button is triggered, SWAT teams come, every police officer in the town comes. It's a real drill. It's not a lockdown. What if happens? So there were literally teachers and children huddles in rooms until the SWAT teams came through and cleared the rooms. As you can imagine, that was traumatizing for all families, all teachers, SWAT teams, students, everyone. What happened during that incident was many students reached out to their parents. So many parents came to the school that officers who would have been working on the school and clearing the event and the incident needed to be deterred to do crowd control. So it is I see it from both sides. I don't know that there's a good answer. I think it comes down to communication with the teachers as to what your child needs and trust in the school that they're going to do everything they can to keep the children safe. And I am in support of my child not having his phone when he's not using an app, and having the teachers have a box, most of them, that they put the phones in. If it is a lockdown, they pick up the box, they walk out with their class and 30 phones or 25 phones or however many phones. And then the phones can be given out to the children when it's appropriate outside. So it's a complicated issue. And I just think that as parents, we need to help each other advocate for what our children's needs are. And the phone is a great tool. My son has accessed a lot of curriculum through it. So I am fortunate in my situation, but it takes work. Thank you for raising it, Susan.
Thank you. Tammy, my child is well in school. That was the only way he could get an emergency notification because of his hearing. And I just worry that if it's not a district, all district-wide policy, schools won't follow it, because I had to beg again and again and again and again just for that notification, because they had rules that were set in place that students didn't receive texts in school. So, and not all parents can do that. Not all parents have the communication skills to work with their administrators to do that. So I just want to make sure that it's in their mind, and possibly schools are, when they make their emergency plan that they have at the beginning of the year, that they are consulting, I wrote my acronyms down: the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, which is DESPP, and DEMIS, which is the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, as to how would this affect school safety plans, not just communications, because I've reached out to BESB, correct, and if you want to comment on it quickly.
Yeah, so we do have students who are served by the Bureau of Education Services for the Blind who do utilize their cell phones and iPads as communication devices and to access curricular materials. So we're also looking at a way to balance this as well.
Right. Yep, it is a balancing act.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Is there anybody else?
I don't see anybody else here.
Yes, I was wondering, do the students have any comments, any trends that they're seeing at their schools, or things that they think positives, or anything of that sort, something positive that's going on, or challenges that you think that this is something the SAC could address? It's okay. You can always email it to us as well. You could always email it to Jolie. Nope, that's okay. All right.
You can always email me after, you can always email if you have a comment, after roundtable. And if you need any of the acronyms broken down and we get past that, you can email me as well.
Okay, and wait, we're trying to see
We're
it.
trying to read your
read the
house, so
screen.
what kind of issues?
I can't read.
Kind of issues.
Oh, issues. So, Tommy, you had brought up last time that you were having a problem with getting advice about your next step for college, about appropriate colleges, that possibly the school did not have the knowledge of the best colleges with services that were appropriate and that you would do your best at. So things like that, things that could, anything like that.
Well, I have made adjustments. I have looked into that, and I see that many schools now really have strict programs. Like, for instance, right now, one of the schools that I'm looking at, Iona University, has a built-in program for students with IEPs and learning disabilities and all sorts of disabilities of that aspect.
Thank you, Tommy. So that's definitely something we should put in our minds when we talk about transition.
Exactly. That
As a
there
way to-
are programs out for everyone, and everyone is able to be supported.
Right, they just need that information. But we always seem to come back with most of our topics with making sure the right people are getting the right information. So thank you so
Exactly.
much for sharing. Thank you. Are we all good? Everyone?
Brian?
Oh, Brian
Smith?
This is Brian Smith. I actually had a question for Tommy, and Tommy, thank you for sharing that. I guess the question is very broad as far as the support, Tommy. How have you been supported while trying to navigate those systems as you try to find those universities and the resources that are available on campus? Are you doing this solo, or are your parents helping, or do you have counselors at school that are helping? Because everybody comes at different levels as they proceed down those pathways. So I just wanted to see, because that might be an area from the transition side for students like yourself that needs to be enhanced, assisting students with varying levels of disabilities navigate those college university processes and make sure you're successful when you get on campus.
So yeah, thank you for that. I'm not solo teaming. I have many help. I have support from my counselors, support from my family members. It's all like a force, like a team, we're all working together to find the deepest, like, little programs that even like the smallest that would support me in my learning. And like some schools that I looked at definitely say that they support, but they really don't. Some say that they have lots of support, but it's really not like a separate program that you apply to. But really trying to, at the moment, looking for those separate or those programs that will really support the students with their learning aspects.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, thank you, Tommy. And I like how you described that. You have a force. I like that. It's not one person. You have a community around you helping you navigate.
It's a team, everyone's on board.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it, Tommy.
No problem.
Brian, while we have you on, and we have a couple of minutes, can you just give a quick update on how how has it been going with the change in, you could stay through the entire school year and graduate and not just when your 22nd birthday happens? Can you just tell me how that's going? Any challenges?
Brian K or Brian Smith?
Brian Smith.
Brian Smith.
Okay. So from the Brian Smith side of things, everything for the vast majority of students who had the eligibility to either leave school because they had dates of birth July 1st through September 30th, The vast majority of them stayed in school and are reaping the benefits of the additional year of education and transition-related services. So we were very pleased to see that, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that they didn't have all the boxes checked for that criteria to exit school, having an established program to go to, a provider identified, having their Medicaid waiver eligible, things along those lines in our system. So we're very fortunate for that. We have shifted gears. All the grads who or in that window or after that window have all been shifted for fiscal planning purposes to for projected start dates of July 1st of 2024, which will be our fiscal year 25. We did have students leave, however, and most of those transitions were successful. Some of them actually made those transitions before the legislation actually shook down and we got the guidance because they had those early July birth dates. But we do have probably anywhere around that 20 mark per region who had birthdays who navigated themselves right into adult services with success. We have a couple outliers that I'm working with members of Brian's team at the State Department of Education, where they had July birth dates, but the districts issued diplomas in June out of convenience because of the summer birthday, which was prior to the initiation of the legislation. So I'm in conversation with folks over at State Department of Ed, trying to navigate that and a official response from them. So we have a couple outliers that we're still working on, but overall, the vast majority had that birthday, July 1st to September 30th, stayed. They resumed in their school services without any glitches. We did have a handful per region who did migrate into adult services. We have a couple outliers that we're still working with. But it's been a pretty successful transition overall. I think going the reverse like we did before this, of going everybody exiting in June to all those sporadic birthdays throughout the year, I think that adjustment was much more complicated than this shift back to the old business practice. So just real quick, since you're talking about the transition stuff, there's a lot to unbundle, as we know, in House Bill 5001, and our agency is working through that and all of its charges within that legislation. So, we're really excited to see what comes of it, what additional resources may come of it. One subject matter on the table right now is expanding the ranks of our transition advisors, position-wise, statewide. So we're waiting for final approvals and agreements on all that from the personnel side of things. And that will help us get more involved in districts statewide, hopefully at an earlier age than presently. So by increasing those numbers, we'll have more intimate relations with districts because our transition advisors will have smaller geographies to cover and be more of a support and resource to each of those districts based on a smaller number of students. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you for letting me put you on the hot seat.
No problem. I enjoy being on the hot seat sometimes.
Anybody else? No? Okay, so now is when we go on our break and then we come back to council priority review. We're going to do 15 minutes? And Lisa, this is where we will say goodbye to you. What?
Since we started a little late, do folks still want to come back a little sooner, or?
Yeah, I think we should just do the
priority activity is around 90 minutes we projected, give or take. So when we come back, we'll, be kind of going basically until noon, and then we may leave a little bit early depending on, or if we're like engaged in the activity to go a little bit later, but.
Great, so 10 minutes?
Before 10:30 now, so it's up to you all.
I'm fine with a 10-minute. Yeah, just a quick bathroom break. Like, so 10, what is that? 10:30, what is that? 10:35-ish, 10:36? Is that okay? Yep. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
See everybody in a minute.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so we're gonna roll up the sleeves. I literally rolled up my sleeves for this activity, but we have the priorities that you all worked on back in the summer. This is just to refresh our memory around the big areas. There's a lot of topics underneath each of these areas, obviously. So one is around least restrictive environment for students. We have special education staffing, recruitment, and retention, student voice in education and processes. And then we have special education, social emotional health, and then individualized programming. So those are the different areas. Secondary transition has been an area of focus for the council for a number of years, but I also have to just comment for a moment. The roundtable discussions are phenomenal, and this group is amazing. So what you're doing, and I know we talk about the roundtable and the purpose of the roundtable, is to highlight the unmet needs of students with disabilities across the state. And you all are hitting on the topics that you're experiencing. So whether you know it or not, you're informing your annual report based on that. Because then the executive committee looks back at the roundtable discussions as one way to make sure we're incorporating all of those important themes that you all highlighted based on your representative groups. So kudos, I'm always amazed and encouraged by listening to the roundtable discussion. For today, so we're still early in the process, and this is a little challenging in that the annual report overlaps 2 different years. So we're finishing off the previous year, and then we have new or enhanced priority areas for the second part of the year. Having said that, today we have an activity where we're going to break up in the room here. We have 12 people perfectly. As soon as Tom comes back, we'll have 4 people working in a group on this table, 4 here and 4 as well there. And the first thing we would like to do is take 25 minutes or so to just brainstorm, brain dump your ideas that fall within these 5 different categories. If you have an idea that's outside or you're not sure which to put under, that's okay too. The more ideas, the better that you generate. So as a goal, within 25 minutes, let's see if we can get, 20 ideas down on the table or a minute an idea. So we're just jotting down, not much discussion around it, just kind of getting those ideas. For the brainstorming, if you need help shaping that, we're talking about an idea you may have about training. So we would recommend the State Department of Education train or focus on training in this area. That would be one concept that would fit under these activities. And I notice that people are probably looking at my back here. So just remember. The second, yes.
I was going to say, and I believe in July we had discussed the student voice in education. We were just going to put that in every category rather than have it as
overlap each category, but you may have some ideas and activities or different ways that we can enhance student education throughout in all areas of special education. So that is, if you think about it, kind of a backdrop to everything we do and the sole focus of why we do the work that we do. So the brainstorming ideas could be a training that you would recommend, or a training that you had that you would like to see expanded, or a new area of training or technical assistance for schools, for families, for students. The second may be an initiative. So we talked a lot today about different areas of students' mental health. We talked a lot about transition services. We talked about the staffing and recruiting issues that we're facing as a state. So if you have an idea about an initiative, whether or not one exists or not, that's okay. Just get it down on paper and try to capture that information. If you're aware of an initiative that you feel is either not effective or efficient or needs to be revised, so that's our step 1. For folks online, you're going to be one complete group, and then we have 3 groups here in the room. And we're going to come back together in about 20-25 minutes after we've had enough time to get that brain dump started. Any questions from folks online based on step 1 of the activity or in the room?
I just wanted to comment for people who were not at the summer retreat, restraint and seclusion and exclusionary discipline were under the special education and social emotional health category. So in case people were wondering where that went.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say it again. So we discussed at the summer retreat about restraint and seclusion being a priority and exclusionary school discipline, and those were under the blue box. So they're not listed as a separate thing. We put it under that umbrella.
Once Jolise shares the Word doc, I'll share it here so folks can see it up here as well. So we'll keep the visuals for you as you're thinking. And there's a little bit more of a description underneath each of these topics based on that discussion that Jen mentioned that happened in the last.
I'm going, 1 second.
You got it. Yeah. Yeah, there is a graphic, one page.
Visual,
Visual,
colorful.
you have to hand to our legislators
Right,
and as well as folks that are not aware of it. There's a couple of sentences to describe those actions.
Are you ready for me to share?
I think so. I'm gonna unshare.
Okay, I was just, before I stopped your screen, I wanted to just check. I could do that.
Do you want me to stop the recording now?
Yeah, we can go ahead and stop. And then we'll come
Matt,
back.
you too.
Recording stopped.